Hey everyone, I'm Jonah,
I'm Connor.
and welcome back to Rank and File Sports.
In year two, playing on the lakefront, the Northwestern Wildcats are hoping to rebound from yet another disappointing season. This Wildcats team has not looked the same since the Big Ten got rid of the divisions, which was the main focal point in getting Northwestern to some Big Ten title games. But maybe some things are looking up for this Northwestern team, returning their backfield in their starting quarterback of Jack Lausch, as well as their starting running back in Cam Porter, but it's really going to be a tough ride for this Northwestern team once again. The schedule is not favoring much to go right in this one, especially with a relatively young receiving core and a defense that needs to make several strides forward after giving up 316 points last season. This Northwestern team, maybe they can win a couple games here and there, but overall, not thinking that this is going to be a very successful season for the Wildcats.
Yeah, the schedule, it really doesn't favor them much at all. I mean, Tulane, not an easy non-conference game to start out with, and then they got a tough draw in the Big Ten with Oregon and Penn State, as well as some other tough road games like Nebraska, USC, Illinois, and then Michigan and Minnesota. Really, really difficult games at home as well. Not an easy schedule for the Wildcats whatsoever. Even though seven of these games are at home, this is a 7.5 out of 10 on the schedule difficulty meter.
Starting the season off against Tulane on the road. Tulane has been one of the best group of five teams the past couple of years. Really started kicking off in that bowl win against USC a couple of years ago. Who was their quarterback? Pratt, I think, was their quarterback then. Had one of their best seasons. Since then, they've been climbing up. Northwestern has been doing the complete opposite. They've been going down ever since divisions were abolished in the Big Ten. We have this as a 30% chance for Northwestern to get a win right now. Tulane should be the better team on paper, regardless of what happens for their quarterback situation, because they have so much going on. They have Ty Thompson transferring to tight end. They have a bunch of guys that they're bringing in that don't have a lot of experience. TJ Finley was recently suspended for being arrested, and they are currently looking at Jaden Rashada in the transfer portal to maybe come in and lead this team. But regardless of that, they have Mekhi Hughes coming back as their starting running back after a 1,400-yard season and 15 touchdowns. So this Tulane team will be just fine with whoever they have at quarterback. Following week, they get a home game against Western Illinois. Not much needs to be said here. Despite whatever Northwestern might be, they are still a tier above Western Illinois. And with that starting production returning at the quarterback and running back positions, they will be fine in this game. The same cannot be said, however, for the following game, which is against Oregon after their undefeated season. This is far and away going to be a massive blowout. Doesn't matter if Oregon has to travel a long way to Evanston, Illinois to play this game, or I guess it's not even in Evanston anymore, it's on the lakefront. But Oregon is by far the more athletic, the more talented team. Doesn't matter if Dante Moore doesn't play to the same caliber that Dylan Gabriel was last season. Oregon is far and away the better team in this one, top four team in the Big Ten. Going to be an easy win for them in this case. 15% chance for Northwestern to pull off the upset going into a very early bye week.
After that, right back into Big Ten play with a home game against UCLA. This one we actually do have Northwestern favored. UCLA is another team that's very difficult to predict for the 2025 season. I know some people are pretty high on them, some people very low. I think we kind of fall into the middle of that range. We'll have a video out for UCLA in this next month. But for right now, I am going to lean Northwestern here. Home field, they don't really have much of a home field advantage, but UCLA is traveling a long distance. Northwestern's probably going to be able to get at least one Big Ten win. There's another candidate for that also. So it maybe won't have to beat this UCLA game, but it's definitely one that I do think Northwestern is capable of winning and actually is favorites in our mind early on. UL Monroe, that one's actually only going to be 95% for Northwestern. There's a little bit of upset potential there. Um, just given how not great Northwestern is, we don't want to say there's a 100% chance for them to beat any FBS team. So it's sitting at 95%, but they're at home. They should be able to pick up this win, and they're definitely going to need it because next up is a road trip to Happy Valley, and the odds are Northwestern will be leaving very sad. This is a really, really good Penn State team. They made a lot of additions in the offseason. They stole Ohio State's defensive coordinator. They brought back um, Drew Aller. They brought back both of their starting running backs. I think wide receiver once again is the weakest position for Penn State, but that's not going to even remotely affect this game against Northwestern. The Nittany Lions are going to dominate this one from start to finish. There's just no chance for Northwestern to win this game. Purdue at home. This is the other Big Ten game I was talking about that Northwestern has a chance of winning. Again, really not that high on Purdue. I know some people think they could maybe make a bowl game this year. With how bad they were last year, I just don't really see that happening. So we do have Northwestern favored here at about a 70% chance. And then before their second bye week, a road trip to Nebraska, 60 straight years of sellouts for the Huskers. Even though it's Northwestern, this should be another one. And it's only going to be a 35% chance for Northwestern to win. That's probably a little bit generous for Northwestern as well. I think that Dylan Raiola and the Cornhuskers are going to be a really solid team next year. I mean, they're no college football playoff team by any means, but they should make a bowl game, probably finish a game or two above 500, and just overall, I think Nebraska is the much more talented team, and they will be favored at home over Northwestern.
Coming out of that second bye week starts probably one of the roughest stretches of games I've seen in all of these college football schedules. Starting off with going on the road to play USC. First of all, that is a ridiculously long road trip for this Northwestern team. Second of all, USC, even though they are losing a couple key guys like Zachariah Branch at wide receiver and Miller Moss at quarterback, they still have a lot of talented guys coming in. And Lincoln Riley is hoping to right the ship a little bit, especially on his career. A lot of people have been questioning his leadership the past couple seasons. But I think Jordan Mailata has a lot of potential, and I think with a full season to really show what he's got, I think USC can still be a fairly decent team, and especially against this Northwestern team that I'm not very high on, with it being at home for the Trojans, not giving them much of a chance here. 30% chance for Northwestern in this one, and that might be a little bit generous. Following week, they will be hosting the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan's big story is that Bryce Underwood, the top recruit in his class and best quarterback in his class, is likely going to be the starter at some point this season. Is it from the jump? I don't know, but I would be very surprised if he doesn't get worked in towards the halfway point of the season if he is not the starter from day one. And this would be a perfect game if he is not already in good shape. This is an easy one for him to kind of let loose and really show what he's got because this Northwestern team is not going to be very good. Even though it'll be November and on the lakefront in Chicago, Michigan's built for that cold weather. It's not going to be much of a factor in this one, giving the Wolverines a fairly high chance of getting the win here. Only a 20% chance for Northwestern to beat the Wolverines here. Then they remain at home to face the Golden Gophers of Minnesota. Minnesota is one of those teams that we are very high on going into next season. PJ Fleck has remained one of the better coaches in the Big Ten in his tenure at Minnesota. And just overall kept this team right around the top half of the Big Ten standings the past couple seasons. And I really think that this is one of the years that Minnesota can make that leap and maybe be just a little bit more competitive, almost slipping into that Indiana place that we saw last season. Maybe that's more Illinois' task this year, but Minnesota definitely has a lot of potential to be one of the better teams in the Big Ten. It's just a matter of getting a couple key pieces to hit together. But against this Northwestern team, not going to matter. Kind of similar to Michigan, Minnesota's built for the cold weather. And even though it's going to almost be December on the lakefront, not going to make much of a difference. Going to give the Wildcats a 20% chance once again to get a win here. Then they finish the year off in the in-state rivalry game against Illinois. Like I was just saying, Illinois is in a position to do what Indiana did last season. They have Luke Altmaier returning at quarterback after his best season at Illinois. And Illinois overall was a very good team last year, and I think they can only get better from here with who they have returning and who they have coming in. I do think that there's maybe a little bit too much hype around Illinois. While Illinois does have the potential to have an Indiana-esque season, I don't think they're going to quite get to that record, essentially. It would take a miracle for them to upset either Ohio State or Oregon to finish 11 and 1 like Indiana did, and I have zero faith in them to do that. 10 and 2 is the absolute max I have them finishing. And that for what Illinois' schedule is, that is not nearly high enough or that's not nearly a good enough record for them to make the college football playoffs, but they're going to get a solid win against Northwestern here. They're going to be by far the favorite in this one, especially at home at Memorial Stadium. So 20% chance once again for Northwestern to beat Illinois.
Yeah, just I mean, looking at the schedule as a whole, I think it really depends on that Tulane game at the start of the year. If you lose that, the season's pretty much over from there. Because I mean, what you can beat Western Illinois and Louisiana Monroe guaranteed. Other than that, every other game they could potentially lose. I like them to pick up at least one win out of the UCLA and Purdue, and maybe pull off an upset somewhere else. But I mean, it's going to be really tough for them to do that. So 3-9, 4-8. I think 5-7 would be generous. So I'm going to go with 4-8 personally as my record prediction for Northwestern.
I think 4 and 8's where I land too. I think that's the max I see them at. I don't think 5 and 7 is something this team is necessarily capable of. It whatever upset it would be, they would be the severe underdogs in that one. I think they'll get the wins against Western Illinois pretty easily, UM Monroe pretty easily. Purdue, yeah, they gave Illinois a scare last year, but they lost their biggest playmaker in Max Clare at tight end, who transferred to Ohio State. So I don't think Purdue is going to be that much of a threat, especially with it being at home for Northwestern. And then the road trip UCLA has to make. I'm going to favor Northwestern just because of that. So that's my 4 wins, but I don't really see them being able to get a win anywhere else. I just think all the other teams on their schedule have more experience at one of the key skill positions on offense and just are more proven in the past couple seasons. So 4 and 8's where I'm going to land.
Yeah, I really don't know who else they could beat. I mean, if they were to pull off the upset, it would probably have to be against Tulane. That's really the only other team I could see them beating, and that one's on the road. So yeah, I think 4-8's really the most realistic scenario for Northwestern. They could potentially even be 3-9. Same record as last year then, based on our prediction. And the win projection is going to be 5.05 wins. That's just based off of all of the percentages, which is going to end up favoring them to pull off an upset. Uh, I really can't see them doing it. Like I said, if they were going to, it would probably be Tulane, and that would really depend on things going wrong for Tulane this offseason. Anyways, we are going to predict Northwestern to go 4-8. Vegas over under set 3.5 with just a slight favorite towards the over. So they do agree with us there, but it's definitely possible we could see a 3-9 Northwestern. Anyways, thank you guys for watching the video. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.